friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm starting a series, or that's my hope or plan, something a little bit different. So welcome to Tea Time with Allie. This is my awesome tea mug I just got from my daughter for Mother's Day today. And today I am having rooibos loose leaf tea with a little caramel macchiato oat milk creamer for our video today. So bear with me. I do have notes because I have a lot to go over and I have ADHD brain and I'm trying to, let me start my timer here. Fit these into like 30-minute, 30-minute videos. So I have to have notes, or yes, I'm going to go off on a tangent all over the place. So those of you that have been following me for a long time know that I talk about all spiritual and esoteric and occult type subjects, and I'm a tarot reader and a medium and a channel. And so if you like topics like that, please check out my other videos. But those of you that have been following me, especially my Facebook friends from a long time ago, when I used to be under the name Crystal Alley, I also talked about healing from trauma and narcissistic abuse and CPTSD and things like that. So that's what this video has been calling me to do this for, or I've been feeling called to do this video for a long time. But I suffer from a few autoimmune disorders and I have not been feeling well for quite a while now. So I'm still not 100%, but I need to get this out like this. I feel like so many people could benefit from this and need to see this, so I have to do it. I was feeling kind of okay today, so here we go. And of course it was silent outside, and now the lawn maintenance people are weed whacking, so I'm sorry if you can hear that. But I strive to blend spirituality and psychology. That's why I like to talk about both, about CPTSD and healing from trauma, and also the spiritual subjects, because I believe in order to fully heal, we must address the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. You have to address it all. And that many times our spiritual journeys, our spiritual awakening journeys, and our healing journeys are synonymous. They go hand in hand. That is what I feel anyways. So that's why I want to talk about like all of these things, but I kind of want to keep the trauma series to that, and then the spiritual to spiritual, and then later down the line I have plans, to talk about how we blend them together and stuff like that. So so this course, and you see my nice little rudimentary drawings here that I'm going to refer to. I developed this 10-week course when my daughter and I were staying at a homeless shelter. It was a women's homeless shelter for about a year and a half, just over a year and a half. And they did a sort of like a emotional intelligence class there, and it did touch a little on trauma, but they were not really trauma informed. In fact, just to share a personal example, which might, and disclaimer, let me do the disclaimer first. I may get a little emotional. Some sensitive topics may come up when we're talking about things like that, but I promise I am going to refrain from certain words. I also do not want to get flagged on YouTube and get my videos taken down for certain words, so I will be very careful about what I say. But just know that, I may or may not get a little emotional, and, certain topics may come up. So I must put that disclaimer out there. And this is what happened in the shelter. This woman was well-intentioned. All the caseworkers, social workers, they were beautiful women. They truly did really want to help. But in this class, she had this example of an extremely explicit scenario of a father and his daughter. And I will let you take it from there. I'm not going to say what it was, but it was so explicit that it unraveled, or something that I had buried so deep inside of me I had forgot. Like I had, I have many layers of trauma, and I'll be sharing my personal stories, as we go along in these videos. But it was a memory I didn't even realize was there. And because she was not careful about it, and they did not forewarn anyone, and she did not watch her words, she just launched into this story, which went into very vivid detail about the abuse and what happened, that I suddenly, I mean, I didn't even expect it. It just, I suddenly just almost vomited right on the floor, and I got hot and flushed and I got dizzy and I burst into tears and I had to run from the room and run into the bathroom. And by the time I got to the bathroom, I was literally hyperventilating because what she was going through in this story, I was literally reliving. I could feel it, smell it, like all my senses. You talk about one of the most graphic emotional flashbacks I've ever had. And so I spoke, well, they found me after the class and I said, I've taken some trauma informed classes before and you need to be very careful. You have to forewarn people. You can't just, launch into a story out of nowhere like that. And just some of the words she was saying, and just like she was just reading a book. Like you just can't, do that with people who are traumatized. And I said, I've read this book, will you allow me? I'm developing this class off of this book, and I think these women could really benefit from it. And they were all about it. I loved it. We made handouts and we copied videos and we developed this whole 10-week course to start sharing with these women. And the course is based on this book, which, again, as many of you know that have been with me from the beginning, I have touted this book. It was absolutely pivotal in my healing journey in all regards. Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. And the coolest thing ever is while I was in the shelter and when we started teaching or were about to teach this class, I actually reached out to the author of the book and I emailed him. I think I found it here in the book. And I said, I've developed this course. I'd like to have your blessing. You know, I just wanted him to know I wasn't trying to like copyright infringement or act like I was the one that, you know what I mean? Um, I was just trying to go about things the right way and tell him how much I appreciated his work. And he actually emailed me back, and he emailed me back and thought it was absolutely wonderful what I had done. And I outlined some of the class to him and gave me his blessing to share my course with as many people as I wanted to. So I just, oh, I love that so much. So that is what these series of videos are going to be based on. And that is where I came up with, as the book is From Surviving to Thriving, I came up with moving from a surviving tree to a thriving tree, which we'll see on the back. We'll get to that part. But just another disclaimer, I am not a licensed psychologist, psychiatrist, doctor in any way, shape, or form. I'm simply someone who has suffered from different various types of abuse and trauma, narcissistic abuse, emotional, mental, physical, sharing my experiences and what helped me and what I have learned along the way. And for the past 10 years, I have researched and read every book and studied every psychology, philosophy, theology, religion, self-help book, everything you could imagine to wrap my head around this and to heal. I've even taken courses in NLP, neuro linguistic programming, EFT tapping, and CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy. See my ADHD, I just want to spit it out so fast and I stumble on my words. So I have studied and studied and done my research and, read Carl Jung and just so many things. Back in the day, it was Richard Grannon, and Melanie Tanya Evans, and Ross Rosenberg, Angie Atkinson, Sam Vatkin. Some of you may be familiar with these names that started the whole what is a narcissist, what is narcissistic abuse, what is CPTSD. Like they started covering these topics, and I couldn't get enough of their videos in the beginning. So I am sharing my personal experience, my researched experience, and everything with you in a way that I hope that can help bring awareness to you with maybe not having to do as much of the research as I did in the beginning. So we're going to start with how do you know if you have CPTSD? What is CPTSD? Let me start with reading right from the book. I got the page because a lot of people know PTSD that stems from like one instance, like the Vietnam War, as they commonly use, or a bad car accident, or death in the family, or it's usually around like one event or happening. CPTSD is a more severe form of post-traumatic stress disorder characterized by 5 of the most common and troublesome features: emotional flashbacks, toxic shame, self-abandonment, a vicious inner critic, and social anxiety. It also includes, or emotional flashbacks are the most noticeable. Survivors of traumatizing abandonment are extremely susceptible to painful emotional flashbacks, which, unlike PTSD, do not typically have a visual component. So you could have a trigger and start feeling this emotion, anxiety, dread, depression, low self-worth, whatever, without even having a mental image of an event. You could just wake up one day and start feeling these things and you don't know why. And trust me, it happens quite often. So I think before I read more out of here, I'm going to go to, oh, let me just touch on some of the common symptoms of CPTSD: emotional flashbacks, inner or outer critic, toxic shame, self-abandonment. I should have my readers on. Social anxiety, feelings of loneliness and abandonment, fragile self-esteem, attachment disorder, relationship difficulties, radical mood swings, vacillations, disassociation or distracting, hair-triggered fight or flight response, hypervigilance, oversensitivity to stressful situations, and suicidal ideation, which I hope I don't get flagged if I say that word. I think it's okay if you say ideation. I don't know. And in addition, which I will get into in later courses, there's a spectrum, and many people get misdiagnosed with other things when they really have CPTSD or vice versa. And CPTSD can actually very commonly run in conjunction with these other things, like narcissistic personality disorder, bipolar, codependency, the autistic spectrum, the ADHD spectrum, borderline personality disorders. So, and even just generalized anxiety and depression. So you could be misdiagnosed with these things, which I was. It was, oh, you just have depression, you have anxiety. One even said, you have bipolar, and that's a whole nother story for another day, because all those meds made me absolutely 100,000 times worse. That's another subject to get in for another day, because really what I had was CPTSD. I did not have, and yes, I now also have generalized anxiety and I believe ADHD as well, but the root cause was this, as we're going to get into, was CPTSD. Okay. That's another reason I'm going to have my tea for this video, is because when I talk a lot, my throat tends to get a little hoarse. So I'm really hoping that you can see this, or you can like zoom in your video. If not, my little peoples here. From 0 to 7, sometimes 0 to 5, it's common, psychologists, psychiatrists, those are your formative years, they call it, where you're a child and you're like a sponge and you're still forming your opinions and your beliefs, and you don't come in the world with any of that. You're still forming these things. You do not walk out of your mother's vagina with an addiction to coke or alcohol or gambling or disassociation or anxiety. You are not birthed that way. So this is where I actually had to buy a $5 can of Play-Doh from Amazon just so I could show this example. So forgive my rudimentary Play-Doh sculpture here, but during these years, they talk about the neuroplasticity of your brain. What is that? So you got the neurons of your brain. Here's right hemisphere, left hemisphere. And this is like back from like, I don't know, 10th grade fucking biology, physics, whatever the shit class that was. And, they fire signals off from the one transmitter, and, the synapse, and goes to the other neurotransmitter. And it's like, my daughter just dropped her glass. It's like, oh, the temperature is getting cold out here. Send a signal, raise the body temperature, or excuse me, we haven't eaten in like 6 hours. Send a signal. Can you give us some food down here? Okay, so when you're in your formative years and you are subjected to repeated neglect, abandonment, abuse, no matter what kind it is, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, whatever it is shaping your neural pathways every time. So when they're supposed to like look like this and like match up, now this guy is like fucking over here, and this guy is over here, and this guy is over here. Okay? And this continues to happen your whole life. From 0 to 7, it is only your parents, mother, father, adopted parents, whatever your parent figure is, or lack thereof, that is what is shaping you from 0 to 5, 0 to 7. I love to use this example. One of my favorite horror movies ever, Silent Hill. I don't watch many horror movies anymore, but that aesthetic of that one, I just freaking love that movie. And the best part of it all with Alyssa, is that the little girl's name? When the one woman says to the other one, "Mother is God in the eyes of a child." And that, even though it was a horror movie, it explains the situation like perfectly. She split into a evil Alyssa, part of herself disassociated, to get back at the sick, evil, twisted, narcissistic mother, basically. Um, and exactly, because mother is God in the eyes of a child. And to a child, you know nothing else. You haven't been to school yet. You haven't been to church yet. I mean, a little bit. Yes, they will take you, but you know what I mean. But then as you get into 7 to 12, 5, you're going to school now, and you're going to church, and you're developing friends, and you're having peers. And so now, not only is it your parents that may be abusing or neglecting you, but now here we go, they're getting pushed and shaped and twisted again, because now you got bullies at school. Now you got friends or nasty people who are also traumatized themselves. So they're puking their trauma onto you. Mind you, remember, we are all mirrors of ourselves. And I love that saying, hurt people hurt people. So now they're projecting onto you, and now you're developing all these thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of love, there must be something wrong with me. You're just, I mean, you're one your neuroplasticity, is like screwed now, because it is just repeated through every age, from parents to clergy members, members of your church, peers, friends. I went through it. I was ostracized at church. I was bullied at school. Both of my parents were narcissists, and my stepfather was a narcissist. You just pretty much got it coming from all sides, and it's just repeated. Whether it is neglect or abandonment, one parent left unexpectedly, they did not meet your needs, when you were a child and you screamed for hours for food or clothing or safety or comfort and did not get it. I'm not going to go into some of the more graphic details, but you get my point. It is just a constant beating, mashing, shaping, changing your neural pathways. So let me just check in and make sure I'm gonna. Okay, so what happens when this is going on through our life, just repeatedly and repeatedly? Three things happen. And what's happened is a malware, a virus program has been installed in you, which most of us, until, beautiful people like Pete Walker and Richard Grant and all these people started sharing this information, had no idea this virus program had been installed in us. No idea. Number one, it installed this toxic shame core. Here, let me hold this up. So I don't know if you get this toxic shame core. This bitch is now the root of all your problems. This is a bunch of toxic sludge from the repeated abandonment, neglect, trauma that you've been through, that just makes you feel completely unworthy, shame, guilt for things that you didn't even do. None of it was any of your fault, and yet you're sitting there feeling shame and guilt, like you have done something wrong to deserve this. There is something wrong with you. It's just this nasty, evil virus program installed in your computer, just like when it's installed in your computer, and now none of your systems run correctly. Basically, your parasympathetic nervous system, I believe, I hope I'm saying that correctly, nothing's running right now. All operations, all systems are not go now. They're not running correctly now because of this virus program that has been installed in you. And then number two, you've got this nasty, violent, vicious inner critic. And this is that voice in your head that constantly, every time someone triggers you or says a stupid comment to you, instead of realizing that that's not the truth, you're like, yeah, I am stupid. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of love. There must be something wrong with me. Why these people are not loving me, treating me correctly, why they're abandoning me, why I can't hold on to a job, why I can't hold on to a healthy relationship or attract a healthy relationship. There has got to be something wrong with me. You're a failure. You're a loser. You can't ever hold a job. You can't finish school. You don't know what the hell you want to do with your life. You're not successful. You're not rich, you're not whatever, meeting up to society standards, you're weak for feeling emotions, you're weak because you have anxiety and you can't go to public spaces now. You're defective, you're stupid. This can even boil down to as simple as, and I still do this, and I still have to catch myself, like I'll chop up vegetables and some of them will drop to the floor instantly. I don't think, oh, oops, some vegetables dropped to the floor. Who the fuck cares? Wash them off and use them or throw them out, whatever. I go, you stupid bitch, you stupid asshole. That's the first thing that comes out of my mouth. And my daughter is always chastising me. She's like, Mom, relax. You're not a stupid asshole because you dropped some vegetables on the floor. But this is this inner critic that expects absolute perfection from you because in many times you are trying to prove that you are perfect to said caregiver, parent, bullies, whoever it was, trying to gain their love and their respect and to prove that you are worthy of it, to prove that you could be this perfect individual when you were perfect just as you were when you came out the womb. You did not need to prove that to anybody. So this bitch here is just a little bitch that is, think of it as like the foreman or the supervisor running this toxic shame core, running this malware program inside of you. So now we're stuck in survival mode. That's why we call this the surviving tree. Do you think that you're going to be a healthy tree and bear healthy fruits if you have all this viral program running inside of you and this inner critic chastising you all the time? Of course not. So what kind of fruits? Oh, let's see. Hold on, gotta take a sip of tea. Are you going to be birthing or whatever, fruiting addictions to drugs, alcohol, smoking, gambling, overeating, TV, social media, video games, whatever it is. Addictions, catastrophic thinking, always expecting the worst. I still deal with this on a, an example. Maybe like my inspection is coming up soon, and I got a couple sensors on in my car, and I literally was just doing this to my daughter. I was like, I got a couple months and I don't have $2,000. I think, sensors cost thousands of dollars. And if I can't get those sensors fixed, I won't pass inspection. We won't have a car. We can't get to work. Now we have to lift an Uber. I have no idea what we're supposed to do. I don't have a credit card. I don't have savings. And my mind will just whoosh, build this whole scenario where I'm going to drive on a non inspected car and get pulled over and get in trouble or lose my job or whatever because I have no idea how I'm going to, like, pay for my inspection. That kind of, it takes something that, probably can have a workaround or a solution and blows it up to just a magnitude, and then you just start feeling overwhelmed and anxious and depressed and ready to just throw in the freaking towel. That's catastrophic thinking. Codependency and attachment disorders in relationships and just needing people, being terrified to be alone and people pleasing and doing whatever you can, even though you know that they're not treating you well, doing whatever you can to get that person to just stay with you. Ill health, mentally, physically, emotionally, mental health disorders, autoimmune disorders, chronic illnesses, anxiety, depression, all forms of ill health. We know our mental and emotional health obviously affects our physical health. So this breeds all kinds of physical health issues. Possibly eating disorders, suicidal ideation, self-harm. I hope I don't get flagged for saying those things. Self-isolation, insomnia, poor focus, porous boundaries, getting easily triggered, low self-confidence, low self-worth, self-loathing, self-hatred, nightmares, being in a constant state of hypervigilance, and the four at the top here, the four trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. This is the kind of things that you're going to be growing on your tree now because of this. So this stupid thing just flipped on me. If I can, oh, here we go. I had something written too. Well, fight, flight. Fight is when you're leaning more towards the narcissistic end of the spectrum. where you want to push your trauma onto everyone else, where everything is everyone else's fault, not yours. And if they have a reaction to something you do, that's on them. That's their problem. That's a very brief overview of a fight type response or narcissistic. Or you could actually be prone to actually getting extremely anger outbursts, and actually physically getting into fights. Flight is running away from obligations, running away from relationships, or things like obsessive compulsive disorder. Or I think he even puts flight in workaholic, overworking yourself and just delving into it so deep so that you don't have to think about your emotions. You don't have to have memories because you're working too hard to even think about it. Um, Freeze is disassociation, just freezing and not being able to remove yourself from a situation you know is toxic. So you just disassociate in your brain and you just start daydreaming or telling yourself that it's not really happening, something like that. And then fawn is the codependent, is the people pleasing, is not taking care of your own wants and needs, not having any boundaries, and just allowing people to treat you extremely poorly because you can't be alone and you feel like you need them to determine your self-worth and that you are worthy of love. That's just a very like brief general overview of the fight or flight. I wanted to keep this one page open here. Okay, so oh yes, okay, so now I gotta save this page for later. So now, what are we gonna do, or what do most people do when we are having these mental health disorders, ill health, addictions, whatever? We start going to doctors, we start going to churches, we start looking into religion or spirituality, even meditation, yoga, AA groups, NA groups, in and outpatient, rehab. I went to a inpatient 28-day rehab and then AA and NA groups in the past. Unfortunately, these are band-aids, and these are band-aids, and you'll keep putting them on, and then they'll keep wearing, and they'll just fall off. And many people wonder why. Like, I remember when I took my AA and NA classes, they would talk about how many people relapse, and I watched it. I made good friends in there, and we were going to our groups, and within a week, one by one by one by one, they fell off, and I cried, and that just wrecked my whole world and just threw me into a spin because I wanted so much for these people to stay with it and be healthy, and they just kept falling off one by one because you still have this malware virus program running inside of you. It's like the analogy, if you have a one-car garage, say, and you have your old broken down car inside your garage, and you go buy your new BMW or whatever the shit, can you park your new car in the garage if the old one is still there? No. So that's exactly what is happening. You cannot AANA, spirituality, religion, even the best of the best, even like yoga, meditation. I'm not saying these things are bad. These things are, wonderful things to do. But for many, many people, it's not going to stick, or pretty much everyone, it's not going to stick if you have the virus program still running inside of you. You have to do the work and you have to dig this out before you can put anything in that is actually going to stick and is actually going to work. Um, a great example is like they call it spiritual bypassing. I watch my parents do it. I watch, and they go to their specific, religion, church, temple, synagogue, whatever it is you're into, or spiritual practice, whatever. And oh my God, you're reading the texts, or you're doing the spell work or the offerings, or you're going to the groups, or you're going to the synagogue, you're reading the meditations, the prayers, the whatever. And I'm so devout and I'm so faithful. Blah, 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 blah. And then the trauma program is still running, and then you're still having the same issues. You're still attracting unhealthy relationships, friendships. You still have anxiety, depression. You still can't sleep at night, and you're wondering, like, again, what the hell's wrong with me? Why is this not working? A great example, Doreen Virtue. And she was pivotal to me when I was starting to learn tarot like 15 years ago, and a lot of people. And she was like Hay House's pride and joy, and hundreds of books and tarot decks on fairies and tarot and angels and mediumship and blah blah blah. And some of you know this story. And then she started going back to church with her partner. I assume she's still with him now. And then she started slowly incorporating little scriptures into her daily tarot readings, which I don't mind. There are little pieces in every religion and every belief that are good, that can help you in your life, and I'm all about that. And then slowly but surely, she transferred all the way to, I saw a vision of Jesus. This is all wrong. It's all bad. Don't buy my books. Don't buy my decks. I'm not associated with Hay House. Everything I said was wrong. It's evil. It's of the devil. It's demonic. And blah, blah, blah. She went just right off the deep end. And when Yeshua was probably just trying to show her love and help her heal, she didn't even say that he said to her, "Oh my God, don't do this. This stuff is evil." Blah blah. He didn't say nothing like that from her vision. She just saw a vision in church and just freaked and went, basically was triggered. And here comes the toxic shame core back, probably from her upbringing, her child religious parents, that was like, "You're bad. This is all bad. This is all evil, blah, blah, blah." And she freaked, and it threw a lot of people into almost an existential crisis, myself included. And I'm so glad that it didn't. But this is the perfect example of spiritual, like, bypassing, where this was still running inside of her. And so it triggered her back to old belief systems, is kind of what I'm trying to say. Um, Ignore my alarm. This is already like going past what I had thought. So let me try to get back here. Okay, so the healing process, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not easy, but I can tell you that it is worth it, and that you will continue to attract unhealthy relationships and things into your life, and you will continue to bear fruit that you don't want to bear until you dig this bitch out of you. It's like a bloomin' onion. It is just layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, and you have to do the nitty gritty disgusting work and get down into the sludge and the sewage and to the deep deep deep. This is what we call shadow work in the spiritual communities. This is why I think this is synonymous. You have to face your demons. I think Richard Grannon uses this example. He calls it the death of a salesman. Wasn't that like a play or something? He's like, think of it as like a bunch of salesmen coming and knocking on your door, and you don't like them, and you just like kill them and bury them in your closet. And they're just going to stay there, and they're going to rot, and they're going to fester, and they're going to smell, and they're going to affect your whole life, and it's never going to go away. Same thing. You have to dig this shit out, or it's just going to continue to fester and fester, and it's never going to go away. So healing is not linear. It's more like, I think of it like a tornado. It's kind of cyclical, and you'll have your good days, your bad days. You'll take a step forward and two steps back. And some days it's going to feel like utter absolute chaos, and your emotions are going to be all over the freaking place. And then other days it will kind of, when the tornado starts to dissipate, and you'll feel calmer. And the most important thing is to just go with it and just allow the different waves, the ups and the downs. And you got to take a day off of work one day, fine. You got to cut off your friends one day, fine. You got to cut off some people. You got to move away. If you have to self isolate for a while, seek a support group, seek friends, whatever it is that you have to do during that time. Just don't bury it and don't stop it. Allow the process to happen. So I'm getting into now about how do we uninstall the virus, the malware program. So the first step is awareness. And that, my friends, this is the takeaway for the day here. You've already got that, because that's why I want to do this video. So for anyone who may not have been aware that this virus program is running inside of you, now you're aware. And it's just like what they say in like AA and NA, admitting there's a problem is the first step. Same thing. This time you may not even have known that there was a problem. The problem is that you are not the problem. Oh my God, it just made me think of Taylor Swift. Is it? Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. I can't stand her, but it just made me think of that. So yeah, the problem is that you didn't know that this was here. Now you know. So once you know and you have the information, the process has already begun. So congratulations. Once your brain kind of like goes, aha, and the switch kicks on, you've already started the process. So step number 2, silence this bitch, this inner critic bitch. I want you for like the next week or 2 weeks, I think I got a cat hair, to try to catch it. Every single time, I don't care if you drop a vegetable on the floor or somebody triggered you or whatever it is, every single time you go, "You asshole, you're so stupid, you're not good enough, you can't apply to that job, you don't have the degree, you're not skilled enough, that person that talks shit about you is right, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm thin, I'm tall, I'm short, I'm old, I didn't finish school," blah, 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 any of these things, any single time, catch yourself doing it. And you can even envision, some of the psychiatrists say to like envision like an avatar in your head, like a figure in your head, make it look however you want, that you can actually speak to and tell it to shut the fuck up. I will try not to like, swear too much, but I think it's applicable many times. And I do swear and I don't have a problem with it. So hopefully that's fine. But literally look at it and tell it, shut the fuck up. Say, everything you are saying is untrue and I am no longer listening to you. Everything you say is not true and I am no longer listening to you. Shut the fuck up. Oh, see, that's already triggering a little bit of So every time you're gonna chastise yourself and you hear this, violent inner critic, do that. And you'll realize it gets easier and easier as you go, and you start realizing like it's really not true. Like this little bitch really needs to just shut up. Okay, hold on. I need to take a drink. And then, oh, now the kids came outside to play. Number 3, you also need to try to, for the next couple weeks, I want you to try to work on identifying what triggers you. Remember, like I said, we are mirrors of each other. And so anytime somebody says something that triggers you and makes you angry and you feel like you want to fight back, or makes you depressed and starts talking shit about yourself or feeling bad about yourself, makes you anxious, and maybe it's not even a person, maybe it's a certain movie, a song, an instance, start, realizing as soon as it happens, start talking to yourself. That is the most important. Start talking to yourself and start being like the kid that's like on Christmas or whatever, asking their parent, why does Santa Claus come down the chimney? Because he has to sneak in. Well, why? Because you have to stay asleep. Well, why? Keep saying, why? What? Why am I reacting to this person? Do I really give a shit about this person or what they say about me? Like, why? So here's where I'm going to give you a personal example, which may bring on some emotions. So fair warning. This was the first wave for me. When I learned this technique, I was very upset driving home from work one day, and I was in the last very toxic relationship I had, the worst one. This was 9 years ago now, 10 years ago now. And they say sometimes it takes something to break you to awake you. I've had 4 long-term relationships in my life, and all of them were with narcissists. And all of them did break me. I did have like a dark night of the soul, you could say, with each one, but this was the one that finally did it, that finally was the worst, that sent me over the edge. And he was cheating, lying, love bombed me, gaslit, hoovered, I'm trying to think, silent treatment, all the tactics that I'll get to in future videos. He did them all. He was the most classic narcissist that you could ever imagine. Multiple women at the same time, just so. And quite a few of them were, I worked with him, were at the same job at the same time, and he had everybody so gaslit and manipulated that we like knew it but didn't fight each other. It was like all whisperings behind each other's backs and competing with each other. Looking back, you realize how like sick and toxic and like, oh my God, but you can't get down on yourself, like, you dumb asshole, because again, you have this program running inside of you and you don't realize the root of why, what is happening. So there was one girl in particular, and the funny thing is, she was about my same height, same weight, same build, same hair color. Our names were even almost exactly the same. And he loved to use her to make me jealous. And like we would go to lunch 3 Fridays in a row, but then all of a sudden he'd go to lunch with her. Or I would show up super early in the morning for work so that we could have, 2 hours to hang out before people got to work. And I'd show up one morning and ta-da, she'd be there and they'd be sitting in her car talking. And of course, your mind goes to, oh, I'm sure they did more than talking. What are they doing? What does he like more about her than me? I found out later on they actually hated her. This happens quite often, and it had nothing to do with anything about her that was better than me. And we often will start comparing ourselves, and it has nothing to do with narcissists. Just like multiple forms of supply, they have to. It's like they often have drug and alcohol addictions as well, which I found out later down he certainly did to heroin, but they often have to have multiple sources of supply. So, but he had gone to lunch with her that day or showed up at the office in the morning, something with her that day. And so I was crying all the way home, but I tried that trick, ask yourself. So when I got home, I got in the shower and I said, okay, why? Why do you care so much? Do you really think she has XYZ, blah, 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 more than you? No. Like, do you really care? No. What is the more deeper problem with this? Why do you care? Because I'm competing and I shouldn't have to compete. He should love me just because. I shouldn't have to be striving to be the sexiest, the prettiest, the smartest, the funniest to keep his attention. Okay, why? Who made you feel that way for the first time? Oh, here it comes. And then it hit me like a light bulb, and I went, oh my God, my mother. My mother, my sister, she pitted me against my sister, and she taught me that I had to compete for love. She constantly pitted us against each other to fight for her love and attention. And one would be the golden child, and one would be the black sheep and the scapegoat, which is a very common theme in many uh, households when you grow up with a narcissistic parent. In fact, let me read right from the book. Her parents unconsciously practiced the divide and conquer principle. Her parents modeled and encouraged sarcasm and constant fault finding among the children. Sibling rivalry is further reinforced in dysfunctional families. Moreover, competition for the little that their parents do have to give creates even fiercer rivalries. I can't even. And there were great times and memories with my sister, and we played Barbies and My Little Pony and Easy Bake Oven and Star Wars characters. And so now you know my age, child of the 80s. And she should have and could have been my best friend, or there were times when we were, but we were also frenemies. We were also mortal enemies because of my mother. Pitting us against each other so that she would always, have us striving for her attention, tattling on each other, competing against each other to show that we were worthy of her love and attention. So then the advice is, once you figure out that trigger, you have to assign blame back to where it belongs and you have to get angry. It does not mean you have to write a letter to said person, that you have to speak to said person. It doesn't mean that you have to. If you want to do those things in the future, that's fine. But for the beginning stages, what we're talking about, you have to allow your body to get this out of you. And you have to anger and get real angry. And this is when the flood work started. And I was in the shower and I said, how dare you? How dare you treat a child like that, an innocent child who is worthy of your love simply because you chose to birth me. I didn't. I mean, yes, it was a soul contract, but you chose to birth me. And if you were not healed enough from your own shit, you have no business having a child when you cannot give them the proper love that they need. And you taught me that I have to compete and try to be perfect and to be the smartest and the best and the most, to be worthy of love and worthy of your attention. And you made me fight against my own sister, who could have been my best friend, because you yourself still were screwed up and puking your trauma onto me. I was worthy of your unconditional love simply because I exist and I was an innocent child. How dare you? Okay, and that's and then the flood work started, and I cried and I cried. And Richard Grandin talks about ugly crying, where you can spit and snot and maybe you'll throw up, but you have to get it out of you and place the blame back so that you can stop this inner critic from going, oh, it's you. There must be something wrong with me. There must be something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you at all. You are worthy of attention, nurturing, love, simply because you exist. Period. So, now before my nose runs everywhere, that gets into number 4, emote. You have to let yourself purge it, puke it, cry it, scream it. I used to use the example of the Tears for Fears song, cry, or wait, what is it? Scream, shout, let it all out. These are the things I could do without, so come on. That you have to. You have to get it out of yourself. Do it in private. Do it in whatever healthy way you can. Do it in your car in the drive home from work. But whatever comes up, you've got to let your body let it come out. And again, during this time, seek support. Seek support groups on Facebook or friends, or watch the videos, read the books like I'm referencing. Take care of yourself. Stick to some sort of routine, because it can get to the point where you will not want to get out of bed. You will not want to eat. You will not, things like that. So make sure that you have people that you can call that will check on you, that you try to stick to things you enjoy and at least do one thing that you enjoy every day, like read a book or color or paint or, something as you're going through this process. But this is more, we'll talk more about all these different steps later on. This is how we begin, my friends, to move. Oh, this is stuck now, whatever. To the thriving tree. This is where we want to get. We want to get out of survival mode, free from addictions, healthy boundaries, positive thoughts, self-awareness, self-esteem, self-confidence, emotional intelligence, self-love, healthy relationships, enjoying life again, being able to have fun, feeling strong, focused, clear, peaceful, successful, goal-oriented, stable, secure, better sleeping, feeling inspired, healthy emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, in all regards. This is where we want to get to, my friends. So this is why I'm doing these videos, and this was just the beginning video. So on a final note, let me just leave you with another most important thing when you're going through this process. And if you are speaking to other people in support groups and things like that, do not compare or minimize your trauma. It is not what you went through or how violent or how abusive it was or was not, or if it was just emotional or physical or mental or spiritual or neglect or abandonment or combination of all of the above, or if it was your parents that did it, or bullies at school that did it, or church members, or that is not what matters. Is what it did to your neural pathways. What matters is how it made you feel. What matters is the malware virus program that installed inside of you and how it has affected you throughout your life and into your adult life, that has caused you to attract unhealthy, toxic relationships, because you're trying to heal the wounds of the trauma of whomever did it to you. You're trying to heal that past relationship or wound in your current circumstances, in your current relationships, which you cannot. You're going to keep attracting the toxic ones. That's not how you do it. You have to dig out your toxic shame core and dig out all these levels of grudge and slime and peel this stuff back and go through this before you can get to this point. So we do not want to minimize or compare our trauma. It's not the what or the how or not the how. It's not the what or the who. It's how it made you feel and what it did to your neural pathways, which of course the good news is can be reshaped. You can reshape them to, well, I can't remake them right now, but you can reshape them again, like I said, with all these good, healthy habits and support and spiritual practices that you may like, or NA or AA groups, or any of these types of things. They can be reshaped, or EFT therapy, CBT therapy. Once you have gotten down and dug the virus program out of you, uninstalled that damn virus program. Okay, my friends, so I hope you enjoyed. Please comment, like, share, subscribe if you like this content, if it resonated with you, if it helped you in any way, if you have questions or other things you would like me to address. And I really hope I will see you again. So take care of yourselves, okay? Namaste and blessed be.